Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nitty Gritty. I'm your host, Ryan Biller, and joining me today on set is Sydney Perry. Sydney is the lead role in the upcoming play here at CMU, which is Pride and Prejudice. Sydney, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you ended up getting the lead for this play?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I found out we were doing Pride and Prejudice, and I basically just worked really hard. There's a lot of competition in our department. There's a lot of phenomenal actresses and actors, and I knew what I was up against, and I just put in the time, and I tried to be as memorized as possible when I auditioned. I think that really helps you stand out from the others. And somehow landed it. I really.
Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. I don't ask any questions. I just take the role.
So do you have any idea as to what really gave you the edge?
I think maybe it's because I'm naturally sassy, and Elizabeth Bennet is a very sassy character. She definitely is headstrong. She's very witty, and I don't know. I guess the director saw that in me, so. I don't know.
So Elizabeth Warren is the name of the character that you're playing in the play?
Elizabeth Bennet.
Elizabeth Bennet. Sorry, excuse me.
Warren.
Sorry. I was kind of confused. My bad. So Elizabeth Bennet.
Yeah.
And so what exactly is the play about, and like what role does she fit into the play?
Well, it basically revolves around a family of 5 daughters, and back in that day, marrying was crucial to your role in society and how people perceived you. And in our story, in Pride and Prejudice, there's even more pressure to get married because the daughters, since it's all 5 daughters, the estate can't be passed down to females. So they have to marry off to a male in order to get their estate after their father dies. So it's very high stakes. There's a lot of pressure to get married. And I think what separates Elizabeth from the other daughters is she isn't so interested in marrying for her status in society. She wants to marry for love. And the other daughters, not so much. So I think that's what separates Elizabeth Bennet and the other daughters, for sure.
So when did you eventually decide to go for the role of Elizabeth Bennet, not Warren? What was your thought process to eventually decide, okay, I want to go for this role?
Well, I watched the movie with Keira Knightley, and there's a series, like a TV series on Pride and Prejudice, and I just watched it with, keeping in mind what character do I see myself as, and I just saw myself as Elizabeth Bennet, and that's what I went for.
Oh yeah, okay,
Simple.
fair enough. So, how much experience do you have in theater?
Well, I've been performing pretty much all my life, since around 7 or 8. I was in The Nutcracker, and I had the only speaking role, and I was around 8 years old. And ever since then, I was like, yeah, I like being on stage. This is fun. So I'm actually majoring in acting and directing. So I've been acting pretty much my whole life, but when I went to community college in Dallas, Texas, I actually got my first directing gig, and I got to direct 2 original plays and assistant direct Heathers the Musical, and I loved it. So my passion for acting is kind of turned into a passion for directing, and I think both of them are very crucial to becoming a good performer.
So wait, so what year are you again?
I'm a senior.
So a senior, so when you graduate, what exactly is your plan?
Good question.
Especially as far as going down the acting avenue, what do you want to do?
Right. Well, acting doesn't always pay the bills, and I really like to pay rent.
That's definitely nice.
Right. Yeah. I definitely actually want to go into the business side of theater. I think it'd be really cool to go into an ad agency or a production company, so that way I can still have a creative job and still pay bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what's one of the most nerve-wracking aspects of auditioning for a role? Because I personally have never auditioned for a role, but I can assume that for the general populace, it would probably be pretty nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, it is nerve-wracking. Being judged is it's hard.
It is.
Especially when you're in a room filled with faculty members it's their sole job to judge you and see if you can play this part. You really don't get past it. You find methods to cope with, anxiety or whatever you face when you're auditioning, but it really never goes away. I still get stage fright. I still, stutter over my words. I say a lot. So you don't get past it, but you definitely find techniques for coping with it and getting better at it.
So what are some of those preferred methods and techniques that you use to help kind of surpass that, or at least deal with the anxiety that comes with auditioning?
Deep breathing is definitely a good one to start off with. Also, for me, I kind of just put on blinders whenever I'm performing. I don't think about anything in the room. I just think about what I need to say and my objectives. Can I speak? My objectives.
Objectives,
and
yes.
That's pretty much it. I try and block out as much as I can and just focus on what I need to do, which helps me.
Yeah. So what was the competition level like for this play and for the lead of Elizabeth?
I think every girl wanted the role of Elizabeth Bennet. She's the protagonist of the story, and she's so well written. I don't know. I think the competition, they really, I don't know. Everyone was so good. It just depends on, a lot of it has to do with typecasting, obviously.
Right.
And, how the director sees you, and obviously how you act in real life. Because you can go up on stage and act like a completely different person. But at the end of the day, I think the director can kind of see in real life who actually acts the most like Elizabeth Bennet. And I don't know. The competition was really, like I said, there's so many phenomenal actors in the department. And it just comes down to who fits the role best,
Now you mentioned that you could kind of see some of yourself in the character of Elizabeth Bennet.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that that's how it is always? Is that kind of a uniform norm in the theater world, as far as like to get the lead, do you have to be able to see yourself in that role?
Oh yeah, I think it would be hard not to. If you had to play a role and you didn't see yourself as the character, it'd be really hard to pass yourself off as a character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with every single role I go into, even if I have a hard time seeing myself as the role, I convince myself. I kind of trick myself. And there's no real like method acting involved or anything. Like I don't go home and speak in a British dialect all the time. But I definitely I see parts of myself in Elizabeth Bennet, and I that helps a lot to play her character. It's a very hard, complex character to play, so you kind of have to.
So what's been some of you mentioned the complex aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
What specifically are those complex aspects of the character?
So, like I said, she's very hard-headed. She's super witty. She loves arguments, and not so much fighting, but she loves kind of pressing buttons and kind of triggering people. And she loves the art of debating, and that's hard to play for some reason. I don't know. She just has so many aspects to her. She's open to love, but she's not willing to fall in love unless she's actually in love. You know what I mean?
Right.
She disappoints her family a lot because she actually refuses a proposal that would benefit her family greatly. And then she goes on to marry, the wealthiest guy, and it kind of just all falls into place for her. But she has to go through this journey of finding herself and owning up to her own faults and seeing her downfalls, because her downfall is she kind of pins the downfalls on others without recognizing her own, if that makes sense. So it's hard. Every single night I'm having to go through this journey step by step of just like finding this character and really knowing what she wants every moment of the play.
So you get the role,
Mm-hmm.
and then what does the preparation process look like for you to feel like you're fully prepared to eventually get on stage and perform?
A lot of memorizing. I don't leave the stage at all, and it's
The whole play?
I take that back. I leave for about 30 seconds,
Oh.
maybe 45
And
seconds.
about how long is the play then?
It's about a two
Oh,
and a half
wow.
hour play.
So you have plenty of stage time.
Oh yeah, plenty of stage time, too much. But memorizing is definitely crucial. You cannot, I had to start memorizing months ago, because if you just know the words, it's not enough. You actually have to know what you're saying, mean what you're saying, and really have it in your body, so that way the words come second and the acting comes first, if that makes sense. So memorizing was definitely an uphill battle that I had to tackle first, for sure.
So with about 2 hours of total, not screen time, but stage time, how obviously you probably have a lot of lines. How exactly do you go about memorizing? Like, what's your technique to do that?
Repetition, a bunch of repetition. I try and go over every single one of my lines every single day, which takes about an hour and a half. But when I first started memorizing, I would just say a line, and then I would put my script away, I'd close my eyes and be like, okay. And I'd say the line over and over and over again. And then I would just put it, in order, and I would just go through the entire play and say all my lines by myself.
As of now, where do you feel like you're sitting in terms of complete memorization? Do you feel pretty solid about it?
I'm pretty memorized, yeah. We actually did our first full run through in front of like the crew and faculty in the department yesterday, and everyone's doing a phenomenal job. Everyone's memorized. No one had to call a line, so we're in a good place. We know our lines, so now it's just a matter of really getting it in our bodies and just perfecting it before we open.
So when does Pride and Prejudice open?
Halloween.
Halloween night.
Yeah, October 31st. And then we close on November 9th. So we run for 2 weeks.
Does it feel like everybody's pretty ready? Because you mentioned that everyone seems like they're memorized, but as far as the general atmosphere on set, does it seem like everybody's mentally prepared to open in about a week? A little less than a week?
I think in a week we will be ready. Right now, opening is kind of a terrifying thought just because we still need that extra week. We haven't incorporated lights or we haven't perfected the sound cues and all that stuff. So we still have a bunch of work to do this next week, but we'll be ready. We'll be ready.
So is this your first lead that you've ever landed in a play?
It is not. I actually played Sabina in The Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder. I played Annette in God of Carnage. I played Bev and Kathy in Clybourne Park. That actually was here last year. And I played Lady Macduff, which isn't really a lead, but she's like a supporting role, in Macbeth. That was last semester.
Very cool. So out of all of those leads, which one has been the most fun for you personally to play?
I would say, aside from this one, because this is by far my favorite role that I've ever been given the opportunity to play, but I'm going to say Annette and God of Carnage for the sole fact that I got to puke on stage. That was fun.
Actually puke?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, not my real puke, but I'll give you the spoiler. There was a pillow, and I had to pick it up, and there was puke in the pillow. So I'm sitting like this, and I push the pillow against me, and it's projectile all over the stage. It's really fun.
So, okay. So the fake puke that you guys use, the puke.
Yeah.
What did it consist of? Because I know that, like, obviously I understand that, like, in many cases, like for example, the movie The Exorcist, that puke was just like, split pea soup. So what?
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So what kind of puke? What sort of puke was it that you guys used?
I think it was just like an oatmeal base. I actually directed God of Carnage earlier this semester at CMU. And what I used for the puke scene was oatmeal, dry oatmeal, a bunch of water, applesauce, and crushed up cereal.
So whose job was it on the set to make the puke?
Mine.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Did you have to make, like, the night before, were you just like stirring a big pot of puke, or
Yeah.
how does that work?
Well, yeah, you stir it in a bowl and then you have to put it in the pillow, which is the hard part. But yeah, every single night you just make a new batch of puke, and I'm really good at it if I don't say myself.
That's a weird skill to be good at.
I have it on my resume.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you have to Google like a recipe for like a puke recipe?
I did. Yeah, I was like, what's the best fake puke recipe? And there's a lot, surprisingly.
How did you decide which puke was the best puke recipe?
Trial and error. I would make one batch and be like, that doesn't look believable. And so I eventually I ended up using the oatmeal and cereal water mix. Ugh.
Interesting. Sounds pretty gross.
It was fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. So aside from the puke situation, what are some other kind of memorable things similar to that you've been able to do in a play?
Similar, I don't know. This has nothing to do with puke. It's totally in a different field.
That's good.
Changing the subject.
Yeah, thank you.
I love breaking the fourth wall. So I love talking to the audience during a show, which throws a lot of people off, and I love throwing people off. When I played Sabina in The Skin of Our Teeth, I was constantly breaking character, talking to the audience, saying, listen, I don't want to do this play. Like, this play is stupid. And I think it's fun. I love interacting with people while I'm on stage because people are like, whoa, she's talking to us. This is a play. That's not supposed to happen. And so it throws a lot of people off.
So how often do you guys get to do that, where you get to interact with the audience?
Not often. Not as often as I would like to.
Is that going to be happening in Pride and Prejudice now?
Unfortunately not. There's no fourth wall break.
I also understand that there was First Date. Did you have any, because that was a pretty big play that CMU had.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any role in that?
I don't really do that many musicals.
Yeah, because that was a musical,
Yeah,
right?
it was a musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of just a straight actor and director.
So what is like the big difference between a musical and theater? I mean, obviously,
Song
there's
and dance. Yeah, right.
But I mean, does that take up the large majority of the play?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference is, I mean, but in Pride and Prejudice, we have dance. There's just no singing. So it kind of depends, but song and dance is probably the biggest difference between a musical and a play. But we have dance in Pride and Prejudice, so we're like half of a musical.
Oh yeah, more or less, more or less. So do you guys have any like really young people on your set that like incoming freshmen or sophomores?
No.
So is the large majority of them upperclassmen?
We have some sophomores, but yeah, I would say a large majority are juniors and seniors.
So when the director's trying to find like, you know, cast people for a lead or just any sort of member of the crew for the play, what is the kind of the criteria that they look for not just the lead, but really any sort of role?
Well, the main thing that we've been taught in the department is that as soon as you walk into the building, it's an audition. You could be walking to class and you're auditioning because the teachers see you, the faculty see you, the directors see you at all moments of the day when you're in the building. So they definitely take into account who you are as a person day to day, just how you live, how you act, how you interact with people. And then also just being prepared for what you're walking into. So I would assume me being memorized early on and me being memorized for callbacks were a huge deciding factor. Because if you're not memorized, if you're not prepared, then the director sees that and they're just like, wow, this is a really big role, and I don't know, if you're not even prepared for the callback, why would you be prepared to do the whole play? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So life is an audition. That's what I've learned. If there's anything I've taken away from college, life is an audition, and you better put on your best face every time you go out into public.
Yeah, good advice. So with that pressure, how does that change the way, if at all, the way you go about like your daily business, just walking to class, as you mentioned?
I treat everyone with kindness. I'm civil. I don't have any problems with people. I'm not a problem student. I do my work. I get decent grades. It's just about living your best life, you know, the best way you possibly can, and people see that.
So now, is this your last play that you think that you're going to be involved with CMU?
I hope not. We're going to do Fiddler on the Roof is going to be next semester, and that's a musical. And I would love to work backstage on that, actually. And then also we're going to be doing The Wolves, which is a play, and it's about a girls' soccer team, and I really want to be involved in that. So hopefully that's my last show.
So when does casting come out for that one?
Well, we don't audition until next semester, so casting's not going to come out until next semester.
That's not even at the forefront of your mind
right
now.
Exactly. I'm trying to get past Pride and Prejudice right now.
So what is kind of your like technique for the next week? Because obviously it's coming up pretty quick on the horizon.
Yeah.
So you memorize now. What exactly is the rest of your week look like building up to it?
Just mentally preparing myself for the role. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of already in that mindset, but you know, as the opening date gets closer and closer, you kind of do start freaking out a little bit. But I think it's important just to remain calm and do the work and make sure the audience walks out with some opinion of the show, whether it be good or bad. You want them talking about it. That's what art is. And I don't know. I try and really take the pressure off of myself, even though I am the lead. The rest of the cast is so amazing, and I'm really excited for it all just to come together in front of an audience. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just mentally preparing myself.
So obviously you've mentioned that you've been a lead in numerous plays before.
Mm-hmm.
So when you walk out on stage for the very first time on opening night, what kind of is the thought process that's running through your mind? Like how do you perceive all that?
It's crazy that you ask that, because I get super, super nervous right before I'm about to go on. But as soon as I get onto stage, I kind of go blank and I just say my lines. I do what I need to do, and I'm in the character. I think it's really cool that I get to be another person for 2.5 hours. So the pressure kind of gets taken off of me as soon as I get on stage because I'm not me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like when the opening music is happening and I'm off stage and I'm ready to go on, I'm freaking out. I have butterflies in my stomach. I get stage fright. As soon as I walk on, it all goes away, which is cool.
So with all those butterflies and all that kind of anxiety, especially when you were younger, did you ever have any sort of like, did you ever stumble with your lines or any sort of situation like that?
Oh, yeah.
Like during a live play?
Oh, yeah. I think it's normal for actors to stumble over their words or forget their blocking for a second or skip over lines. But it's all about how you handle it. So if you skip a line, you got to keep on going. The show must go on, you know?
So how exactly do you kind of get past that mental blockage of, oh my gosh, I just skipped a line, and then you see it on your, the other people's faces.
Right.
How do you bridge that? How do you keep going forward without kind of continuing to mess up?
You keep your cool. You don't let the audience know that you're freaking out. And as long as you just continue to talk, you could be saying something that's totally not in the script, and the audience will never know. I mean, that's kind of the cool thing. If the audience, maybe not so much in Pride and Prejudice since it's so well known, but in a lot of other plays, if you just keep your cool and you just say something that, kind of makes sense in the context of the play, the audience is just like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then you tell them, oh, man, I totally messed up that scene. And then everyone else is like, what? We didn't even notice.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you keep your cool and you just keep on going. A lot of times your cast members will save you and come in with their next line, and then you'll pick it up again. And it just goes on. Just all about how you handle it.
So how common is that for somebody on stage to make a mistake?
Common. Common.
What about with yourself?
I mean, I make mistakes plenty, but I handle them, and a lot of the actors in this cast handle their mistakes really well. They don't just like stand there frozen like they forgot something. They go on, and it's super common, but you'll never know. So
Yeah. So what sort of advice would you have for somebody who's younger and wants to start, getting into more lead roles, especially at the collegiate level? Excuse me.
Yeah. It's all about confidence. If you have the confidence of the lead role, then you have a pretty good chance of getting it. Like I said, it's all about how you prepare yourself and how you present yourself in the audition room. I know a lot of people that are trying to get into theater or trying to get that lead role. It's nerve-wracking, and you just gotta believe in yourself, and you have to see yourself in the role before the director sees you in the role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
Now to switch gears a little bit, as far as Pride and Prejudice is concerned, typically with directors and that sort of thing, how do you think that they would usually judge you when you're on stage? Do they give you feedback while you're out and you're performing?
Well, normally they give notes after every run. So what they'll do is while we're doing a full run, they'll be taking notes on their notepad, and then they'll just give them to you after every run. Jill will tell me, Sydney, you really need to go to stage left rather than stage right because that cross didn't work. And then the next run we do, we just incorporate all those notes that the director gave us the night before.
I've always wondered what exactly goes on behind the curtains. So what exactly is it really busy back there? What is the atmosphere like behind the curtains of what the audience perceives on stage?
It's lame. It's lame. I mean, it can be chaotic, but most of the time it's just people backstage playing cards or on their phone or, just waiting to hear their cue line. Yeah, people are really chill. I mean, or people are going over their lines before they go on or something like that. I mean, there's no party going on behind the curtains or anything. Most people try and get in the mindset. They try and calm themselves down. And yeah, it's really boring.
Oh, wow, it's a lot less exciting than I thought. Yeah. Now, how many nights do you guys perform in total?
I should know this. I do know we run for 2 weeks, so we probably have 6 or 7 shows.
Is there a particular show, a numbered show, that is the most daunting for you, and then one that you prefer the most?
I really kind of dread matinees, so the earlier shows. just because it's never as high energy, the audience is never as big, but they're still crucial. You know what I mean? So, I mean, just because it's a matinee doesn't mean that all the actors are like, okay, it's a matinee. We can kind of, not put in our best. Every single show we have, we put in our best. We do what we need to do. But I would definitely say with bigger audiences, so like on Friday and Saturday nights, I have the most fun on those shows because the audience is bigger, which means the reactions are bigger, the laughs are bigger, the gasps are bigger.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I definitely like the evening shows better than the matinees, for sure.
So with 6 to 7 shows usually for a play, does your performance differ much between show to show?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. I mean, not to say that I don't realize things in performances. So even during performances with audiences, I'm still learning about my character, if that makes sense. I'm still like, oh, that's what that line means. Like, oh, maybe that's how I should say it. Or, I have
Yeah.
different reactions to things every night. So the shows are different, but I would like to believe that everyone's putting in the same amount of effort from night to night,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now with a play like Pride and Prejudice, where there's been, numerous different interpretations of it, and you mentioned earlier to me that you had watched the movie and you'd seen shows and that sort of thing.
Yep.
With all the different portrayals of the show, do you kind of base your personal performance as Elizabeth off of other actresses who have done it before, or do you just try to take a completely new take on the character?
That's a good question. I kind of like to blend all of them together, if that makes sense. So, I'm on YouTube and I'm looking at all these different interpretations of Elizabeth. I'm even looking at stage plays from like high schools, and I try and incorporate all of them into what I interpret Elizabeth to be. And I don't know. I also try and bring my aspects of myself into it. I think that's kind of inevitable, that I bring my own personal life into the character. But I don't really base my character off of one particular interpretation. I feel like I'm a blend. I'm all over the place.
Yeah. So do you kind of draw different elements of other performances into your own performance?
In a way, yeah. In a way. I don't like to say that, I'm like copying, but I definitely, yeah, I do use different aspects of different kinds of shows and, the TV series and the movie and all that into my own performance.
Okay. Now, switch gears again a little bit. You guys say you open on Halloween night, correct? What was the reasoning as to, putting the opening date on Halloween? Are you guys expecting a big turnout?
I have no idea. I hope we have a big turnout. Someone asked me the other day if we're going to have zombies in our production.
Zombies?
Yeah, because apparently there's a Pride and Prejudice zombie type movie that is out that's really popular. But no, unfortunately there's no zombies. I honestly don't know why we chose Halloween. I think it was just the timing of how all the other shows, the schedule goes during the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. So now, as an actress, do you have any advice to anyone else who really wants to become an actress, especially as they move up and up into the ranks of higher up in college?
I say do it. Go for it. I mean, it's such a creative outlet. It's for me, it's a therapeutic thing almost. I get to escape my own personal life for 4 hours a night at rehearsal and just live in this totally different world, this totally different person. And I honestly don't know what I would do without theater. So if anyone is on the rocks about joining theater and becoming an actress, do it. Do it. I mean, even if it's on the side, you don't have to make a career out of it. But I mean, theater and art in general is just so crucial to a lot of people's lives. And if you have the slightest want to become an actor or a performer in any way, then just follow it, and do it as much as you can and as long as you can, because nothing's guaranteed. So
Yeah. Now, in terms of Pride and Prejudice, for anyone watching this, what do you think? Like, what should they expect if they go to the play?
Expect a rom-com, a comedic romance where a guy falls in love with girl, and they get married, and it's a happy ending. But also expect a lot of comedy, a lot of wit, a lot of mind games. It's a complex show, and I definitely think, for as long as it is, people are going to be invested the entire time because you want the protagonists to end up together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's definitely a journey to go along with that, and people love to follow that journey. And so I definitely think people will like this show a lot.
Exciting
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah. Sydney, that's about all the time we have. Please be sure to go and support Sydney in the upcoming play Pride and Prejudice, airing Thursday, October 31st, which is Halloween. And join us next week for another episode of Nitty Gritty.